All right, everyone, welcome to the July 24th, 2025 live payroll restoration community for accounting professionals Q&A. Let's see. I am just going to go start answering questions from the Facebook group here. All right, we have a question about registering for Florida unemployment. This accountant has a client who owns and runs two businesses with two separate EIN numbers, and they're being taxed as an S Corp. So for company A, she's already registered and has her Florida reemployment account set up with the reemployment tax rates. But company B is newly making the switch to being taxed as an S Corp, and she needs to get her reemployment rate to be able to complete the payroll process. I'm sure they also need the reemployment tax ID number. She's unsure how to proceed because when she logs in, it says she already has an account and will not give her the option to add a second company. Should she start a new one all over? I'm not familiar with setting these up to be able to guide her. Any information I can pass along would be great. So anytime I shouldn't say anytime, most of the time when you're going to be setting up an either a Department of Labor or unemployment or a Department of Revenue, which is usually withholding account, the key is to not be logged in when you apply for the other business, especially in Florida. There are some states that you can be logged in and fill out the request to add a company, but in Florida you can't. And I did provide this person with this link that I'm going to add to the chat, and it will be available in the description when this video is posted, of where you can grab the information about applying for a second Florida Department of Revenue reemployment tax ID. And I'm not going to read this question. I'm going to give you the gist of it because it's actually more than one post in the payroll restoration community for accounting professionals Facebook group. But a pastor had the explanation doesn't make a ton of sense to me because it says that the pastor filled out his W-4 incorrectly and therefore was being taxed on his payroll. However, I believe it's more of a setup issue with the payroll software because Clergy should have the box checked that says that they are not subject to Social Security and Medicare tax when they are working for a church and performing clergy duties. So it only applies. This is where it can get really confusing because when you have an ordained minister or somebody that is ordained clergy, that is perhaps they have a job teaching at a religious school, that they would be subject to Social Security and Medicare for. I myself had a Lutheran minister that I used to employ, and this is not clergy work, fixing payroll. I was still had the obligation of withholding Social Security and Medicare and paying Social Security and Medicare. The rules are very clear that it's only when they're doing clergy work. So this person decided that, or the church or decided that they, in order to fix this, they wanted to change this pastor from being an employee to being a contractor. So their plan is to delete all the paychecks and re-enter paychecks as regular expense coded to contract labor. I know I will have to redo the 941s for first and second quarter. Yes, I know it's not recommended to delete a paycheck, but it's the only solution I can think of that'll straighten out this mess. And I'm like, clergy shouldn't have taxes withheld from their paycheck. So it really sounds like a setup issue. And they argued, and I'm doing anything to assist them with removing this pastor from payroll and making them be a contractor can open you up to huge liability. It can be considered fraud. And you changing the payroll from payroll to contractor could be evidence of you perpetuating this fraud, especially when it's easily fixed by changing the status in the payroll software and filing corrected returns. And it's really important that you understand the difference between employee and contractor, and can help educate your clients on employee versus contractor. And if you don't understand how clergy payroll work, there are a couple, like there's a bunch of groups that will help you with educate you on clergy payroll. My group is one of them. Michelle Brown Ball has a group that will put the link in when we post this. And there's a bunch of people who have answered on this post that have a lot of experience working with churches. And one of the biggest, strongest comments that I've seen on this post was that their church board needs to be educated about clergy payroll and employee versus contractor. I think they're making a huge mistake in reclassifying him as a contractor. Pastors can have federal income tax withholdings, but they're not required. They just wouldn't have FICA. He possibly could also be getting a housing allowance and a base wage, which would benefit them greatly. And there's the original poster is coming back with a ton of arguments. It's like her biggest one is the church board already decided this, so I'm just trying to facilitate it. But personally, if anybody came to me and asked me to fix this payroll in this way, I would decline, because it is not what it's not the right way to fix it. And our main thing is that we will only fix things correctly. And we've got a couple more people that have joined. Does anybody have any questions on any payroll issues that they've got come up that they want to discuss? So because we've got a really small group on here, I think I'm just going to answer one more question, and then I'm going to end this a little bit early. I'm just trying to find another really good question. Okay, I've got the question. And this person is wondering if there's anyone that's well versed in household employees. My firm currently has a tax client that has a household employee. I do not do their payroll, but I was asked by our CPA to review their payroll data to ensure we are including the correct information for the Schedule H. When I looked, I discovered that the payroll software was processing it incorrectly and is filing 941s and 940 instead of a Schedule H. And they're set up as a sole prop and the client is not a sole prop with other employees. So it should have been able to be set up as a household employee, but I think this sounds like it was probably a setup error, or the particular software was not capable of filing, of just running payroll and filing the state withholding and state unemployment returns. A lot of times, the especially the bigger, more well-known payroll softwares are not able to not file a 941 or a 940 when you're running payroll. You There isn't a way to properly set them up as a household employer. Personally, when we're processing payroll for a household employer, we are using QuickBooks Desktop. I know that's not always going to be an option for people, but the way to fix this will be to manually file 941X to zero out all the wages, file an amended 940 to zero out the wages. And then, because 2025 is not finished yet, you can file a zero wage reporting original 941 to mark that one as final, but you will have to also file a 2025 940 return as final. And this is to close the IRS's expectation that there will be continued 941s or 940s being filed by this EIN. And there are software options available that can properly do household employee payroll. I've seen it successfully done in Sure Payroll, and I believe care.com has an affiliate with a payroll provider that will process household employer correctly. We also file a lot of household employer payroll through my firm called River Valley Accounting. And it's, we've done a lot of correcting this exact issue where a payroll software was set up for a household employer that doesn't truly process it, or it was set up incorrectly. And I totally lost what I was saying there. But in the last year and a half, we have fixed a lot of household employer payroll that was not either not set up correctly in the payroll software, or set up in a payroll software that really cannot handle a Schedule H or household employee. So that you always have to ask a lot of questions when you're setting up what I call a non-standard payroll, because there's a lot of software that only will file a 941 and a 940. They can't file even like agriculture on a 943, or file the 945 for the backup withholding for your contractors. So you just always have to be asking a lot of questions. And if at all, if during the setup process, if it looks like it might be an issue, stop and call support and ask questions. And that's all I have to say on that. And it does look like there aren't going to be any questions from the people attending live. And it looks like we're going to have a couple of people that are going to be posting additional questions in the Facebook group. So make sure to watch out for those additional questions and my answers. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you guys in the next quarter for the next quarterly live. Thanks, everybody.